if your seasonal decor section might be lacking at Dollar Tree, there are always some little gems to find in their wood blank section. I picked up 2 of these little wood boxes with the llamas, mostly because the other designs like this rainbow one, they have large gaps, and the llama, it didn't. The gaps were minimal, and I knew we'd be able to cover them up easily to create these covered candy dishes. There are a couple different ways you can fill in these holes, but first I want to start off by grabbing some painter's tape and just putting it on the back here. This is going to stop whatever we're putting in them holes from seeping through. You can use some spackling if you want. Joint compound caulking will work as well, but I like to use my little texture paste mixture here. Just kind of smush right over. This stuff sands down really well, and that way I can have a nice non-chemically product on my piece. While that's drying, I grabbed some of my TDS Decoupage tissue paper and cut down a couple different designs. You can use napkins, you can use regular paper, whatever you would like for this. Decorate your box however you would like. I'm gonna be using some good old Mod Podge for my medium to decoupage little pieces I just cut out and put together all around our boxes. It took a couple hours for the top to completely dry, and then I just grabbed my finger sander and off camera over the trash can, I gave it a nice sand. Removed the painter's tape off the back and then did apply a layer of white paint over top just to seal in any of that mix and give us a nice clean base for our decoupage. After your pieces are dry, grab a little piece of sandpaper and go around the edges and get all the excess paper off your piece. I took some black paint and went around the edges and grabbed some little wood knobs I had in my stash to put right on the top and painted them black as well. Make sure you take a second, eyeing up the center of your box before you press it down. You don't want to accidentally put it in the wrong spot, try to pull it up. You will probably mess up your paper. There are always a ton of goodie options at Dollar Tree, so pick whatever you would like, pop it on in your little boxes, and put them around your house. This candy cane is a big bama, so I knew I was going to need a support system like this piece of cardboard that is 19 by 13 inches. And of course, let's not forget the tumbling tower block. Now people, if I'm being 100 with you, I scoured the internet to see if I could find something that I could even mimic for a build for this candy cane, and I found nothing. With that being said, I will spare you all the footage that I went through trying to find a build that would make sense for this candy cane and came up with this one. And even once I was satisfied with how I was creating the stem here, when I got to the tippy top, I still, it had its struggles. And at this point, I was already like, well, we might as well open another box because I don't see an end in sight here at the current moment. And here's where we landed, minus the 2 little square nubs you see in the corner up there. I didn't end up using them. And then I decided to get a little professional on y'all and bring in my little white chalk marker and let y'all know how many tumbling blocks I used in the sections. So if anybody wants to recreate this joint, you have exact numbers, which, you know, absorb this, people, because it's not something I always typically take time to do, okay? So it's 27 in the total center of the length of our stem here, and then 9 on each side of the stem, giving you a total of 18. Look at my little arrows I'm drawing for you. Our little hook piece has 6, and then on each side is 2, giving you a total of 10 blocks just to create our little hook. And then the actual bridge from one side to the next has a total of 9. And then I put 1 on the outside of each. People go about this whatever way you want. I'm showing you how I did it. And I decided to take a pencil and trace the candy cane. And then I cut it down to size to meet the trace. I decided to still use my favorite type on wood glue and some hot glue to attach the pieces. Only I smeared the wood glue on the cardboard and left some gaps so this way I could put the hot glue in between, ensuring that we're going to have a long hold and a quick hold so I can just keep attaching the tumbling blocks. I also made sure that as I was stacking these on top of one another that I was stopping to lift the candy cane up to make sure that they were all holding, and it was still straight. Nothing would have pissed me off more than I got all the way to the top and realized that everything was completely lopsided. When I got to the top, I could have just went straight up and then went over, but I wanted to just leave a little space. And again, you create this how you want. I was building this with my own imagination, so it made sense to me the way that I was putting it together. And I love the end result anyway, so I'm really happy with how it's constructed. I did not feel fuzzy inside at all trying to create something this big and not have a brace for it. Absolutely, you could do this without the cardboard. I just did not want to take a chance on everything just eventually falling apart, even though we still had these struggles. Because I didn't put wood glue and hot glue in between the actual blocks and just mostly put it on the cardboard, I did have some issues with the cardboard bending. So to save more time and struggle of that happening later after the project was finished, I just took a minute with a paintbrush and went in between every little section that I could and smushed as much wood glue in there as I could. I let this dry for a couple hours and then came back in with an X-Acto knife and trimmed any excess that was dangling over of the cardboard from around our towering tumbling blocks. Because the piece is almost 2 feet long, I thought it would be in our best interest to pop some paint sticks on the back of this joint for some extra stability. And I used the wood glue and the hot glue, just going in like a straight section throughout the middle, and including our little walkway and the hook on the opposite side. The little walkway to the opposite side of the candy cane. And I'm pretty happy with the build. It's not flimsy at all now that it's all dried up. It's been a couple days and it's doing really well. Obviously, paint your candy cane whatever color you want, people. I'm going with the good old traditional red and whites, and I'm using Waverly's white chalk paints, giving it nice coat. And I only had to do 1 coat. It went on really well, and then I dried it on up. Now I'm taking the painter's tape and starting with our hook. And the reason why I decided to start on this side is because I was nervous that if I started on the longer side with our 2 red mixed paints, I'm taking 2 of these to mix together to get 1 color, just because I didn't think it would turn out the way I want it if I just use one or the other. That's just how my creative brain works, okay? You paint yours whatever color red you want. Okay, maybe you just got 1 color. I'm using 2. Anyhow, back to why I'm putting the painter's tape on the way that I am at the end of the hook. I was scared that if I came up the long ends, that by the time we got to the short ends, I wouldn't have my stripes going in a way that made sense across the walkway, you know, from one side of our candy cane to the other. So I decided to start with the small ends and then work our way. And I even like did this stripe kind of slanted to give it the appearance that, you know, it's spinning. I'm not sure if anybody else, you know, sees the vision here, but in my mind it makes sense. A little help to reduce some bleed through is to make sure that your paintbrush is practically dry, and then start where the painter's tape is doing little dry circles. You could also paint over the painter's tape with white paint, let that dry, and then come in with your red paint or use Mod Podge. I find that this technique is super quick and really effective. Once that dry paint is all on there, then just go over with some more red paint. Now, people, don't let me perpetrate here. I pretended like I was going to show y'all how I greened this up. However, I did not. I did not really get into it. But I did put, you know, this little metal ribbon around our candy cane here. And I made some greenery and a little ribbon. And it was very tiresome. This was probably the most difficult thing of all of it for me. But I absolutely love how this candy cane turned out. Let me know if you guys plan on making one this season. Next time you're in Dollar Tree, head on over to their wreath section. I found this frosted berry pinecone beaded wood wreath at Kirkland's for $49.99, and I knew we could dupe it using one of these and some floral foam for that pinecone berry bundle on the top. Our Kirkland's piece had white beads, so I decided to paint mine white too. I'm just using some white chalk paint. If you want to spray paint yours or paint your beads however you want, you go right ahead. This is just how I did it. I'm just going to use one of the little squares in that floral foam pack, and I'm cutting out a small section that is going to snugly fit our beads right on in there. I'm going to use some Titebond Quick and Thick to make sure everything sticks together. However, I had a little clog in there again, and I knew my little oddly satisfying lovers out there enjoy watching this stuff. So here you go. Once I had that tube cleared out, I poured a healthy amount into that little space that I cut out in our floral foam and placed the wreath form in there. Then I just went through my floral stash and grabbed things that I had on hand. Obviously, if you need pieces to create your floral part, you go ahead and pick them up. Dollar Tree has pine cones there, they have the greenery there. I just wanted to try and save as much as I could recreating this Kirkland's dupe. It took me a minute to get everything in place and also added some floral moss over top of the foam in spots that were showing. I thought it needed a little something something, so I grabbed my white chalk paint here and a sponge and just tappity tap tap tapped some flocking all over this floral part of our wreath. Here is our inspiration, and here is my dupe that I only spent $2.50 on since I had a large portion of the greenery and the pine cones in my stash. Large wood blanks at Dollar Tree aren't just good for single piece decor. I'm gonna grab 4 of these snowflake pieces and we're gonna stack them on top of each other to create a snowflake riser. To attach all of them, I'm just gonna use my Quick and Thick Titebond and some clamps. And then I noticed that my Titebond was kind of clogged up. So I got my little Cricut tool here and grabbed my needle nose pliers and just unclogged it. For those of you who love oddly satisfying things like me, you're welcome. And for anybody else that was disturbed, my bad, my bad. Listen, we do weird stuff around here. Welcome. There are several different ways you can create risers or get that thicker effect. I decided to just cut out using all the beads and the tumbling blocks and popsicle sticks and whatever else I've used in the past and just pile these suckers right on top of each other. I've also noticed that when I'm doing stuff like this, if I use hot glue, even though it's helping to attach things quicker, it will leave gaps. So I just went ahead and used the Titebond Quick and Thick and the clamps, and I really love how close the adhesion was on these pieces, along with the thickness of the overall riser itself. I grabbed some of my spackling and shoved a little bit in that hole we had here, so this way it didn't look like a bunch of ornaments. Use whatever legs you would like for your riser. For this one, especially since it's the holiday season, we're just going to use the little snowman pieces from Dollar Tree. I usually always have these in my stash and pop right on the bottom. For our main color, I'm just going to use some white paint, and I'm going to use a little bit of black paint to give some accents, mostly just around the edges and for the stencil we're going to put on the top. Yes, my stencil was not rinsed off, okay? I can't even remember the last time I used this stencil, but it was in my stash and I was like, it'd be good. We're putting more black paint right on top of it. And it was just fine. What a great way to use those large Dollar Tree wood blanks. We are going to grab some Dollar Tree's hanging snowflakes and a wood plank to create our own unique wall decor. Take this idea and remix it using whatever colors work best for your home and your decor. I'm going to just take some black and paint a nice coat all over just the plank section and allow that to dry. While it's drying, I'm going to take the snowflakes and cut them all off the twine and then grab some white paint and paint them all white. When they were done drying, I grabbed some more twine and then cut little pieces to attach to the top of each one of the little snowflakes. Did not reattach the snowflakes themselves. I put them to the side and then went and grabbed one of my stencils that were in my stash. I did order this off Amazon for anybody that was wondering, and I put it in the spot just to kind of measure where that was going to end up. Then I grabbed some metal lace. You could use ribbon for this if you would like, and I cut a couple sections and applied it right to the end and made sure to also cover over those holes that we don't want anybody to see. I cut up some greenery and stuck them into the metal lace. You can absolutely glue them down, but I knew I was going to be putting berries over top of them and I waited to add the glue. I then flipped it over and added the snowflakes onto the back with a little bit of hot glue and a little piece of cardboard. Then when that dried, I flipped it back over and added on those berries. If you want to use paint, you go right ahead. I'm just taking a little bit of my homemade texture paste and going to smear it right on the Believe section of the stencil. I cut the little Santa sleigh section out and put it right on the top and then added more of that texture paste. Believe it or not, this only took a couple minutes to make and it absolutely looks like something you would purchase in a store. If you're looking for more Dollar Tree DIY Christmas inspiration, check out this video right here. And as always, people, thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. And until next time.